Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Today is Sunday, the 15th of December, 2024, and it's my 4th stream on Twitch, and I think it's the 3rd on YouTube. And I think it's going to be my last coding stream for the year. And if I do any more streams this year, they're likely only going to be gaming streams. But yeah, I'm not sure. And yeah, for next year, I'll probably do something different, but I'm not entirely sure yet. So maybe I'll continue. But anyway, before I start, I just want to quickly announce that I am running for the Django Steering Council elections. The Steering Council is a group of people who safeguard big decisions in Django and help shepherd the project's future direction. Historically, it's known as the core team, and then I think it changed to technical board, and now it's the steering council. So yeah, if you're a DSF member or if you signed up for the elections, you can cast your vote now until the 17th of December. So that's in about 2 or maybe 3 days, because it's midnight anywhere on Earth. So yeah, we have 12 candidates, including myself, and all the other candidates are great people, very prolific contributors. So even if I don't get selected, I'd still be happy because yeah, these are very great contributors, and yeah, I'm sure Django will be in a great place, even without me. So yeah, and And that, and even if I don't get selected, that doesn't mean I would stop contributing to Django. I can still contribute in different ways. So yeah, I guess with that out of the way, let's jump into today's topic. And just a recap, last week we submitted two PRs. One is to fix the test for the double quotes on JSON field lookups for SQLite. And yeah, so Mariusz has reviewed the PR. He suggested two changes. First is just to remove the 0 from the version comparison, so that I guess it would be slightly faster because it doesn't have to compare the patch version. And the second one is, instead of using the expected failures, he suggested using um, Django test skips instead. So that means on older SQLite versions, the test will just be skipped instead of expecting the test to fail. So yeah, this is what the PR ended up looking like. Yeah, it's very simple, really. And the other one is to add a GitHub Actions workflow job for testing against the latest SQLite, so that we can highlight that um, this test that we previously added to the expected failures, um, because it turns out that this behavior that we expected to fail, um, it's already fixed in a newer version of SQLite, which is 3.7, sorry, 3.47. Um, but unfortunately, the CI setup for Django relies on the SQLite version that's available on the um, Linux distro, which I think would be Ubuntu latest. And yeah, it doesn't use the latest SQLite yet. So I had to build SQLite from the source code and then run the tests with it. And as you can see, we have an unexpected success because, yeah, the test that we expected to fail no longer fails. And yeah, this can only be seen if, um, let's see, if we use the latest SQLite version, which is a bit of it's a bit difficult to set up because you need to compile it from source, and then you have to make it so that Python's SQLite library uses the SQLite that you just compiled, because um, yeah, SQLite is bundled in the Python installation. So if you want to replace it, you have to do some hacks like using LD preload, for example. But yeah, I also suggested whether we should also test against the um, minimum SQLite version that we specify in the documentation, which is currently 3.31. And I think technically we already test against it, because it's based on the oldest um, Ubuntu or Debian that is still supported. Um, and so, yeah, we look at the SQLite versions in those distros. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that would be Ubuntu Focal. So yeah, that's what the Django CI uses. So technically, we already test against 3.31, but we depend on that being the version that is available from the Linux distro, rather than, say, installing that specific version from SQLite itself. So, like for example, we're not testing the this SQLite version in a way that is independent of the Linux distro. So like we cannot, like for example, we don't have a CI job that, let's say, uses the latest Ubuntu with the oldest SQLite version that we support, because yeah, it's kind of implicit in a way that it comes from the um, Linux distro image that we use. So I initially suggested that we also add another job that compiles the this specific SQLite version and test it regardless of the operating system on the CI. But it was a bit complicated because the Python installation also, like, it makes some assumptions based on the currently available SQLite. So if we replace the SQLite library with an older version than the one that would have came that would have been pre-installed when you use the setup Python action, um, there's going to be some mismatch, and I did encounter some errors. Um, like, for example, I had to specify um, to compile the library with certain flags that that were added in Debian's build configuration. Like, yeah, it's just a whole can of worms. So yeah, I guess I would understand if we don't want to um, have that test set up. But uh, I think having the test against the latest SQLite version is still useful to have, because in the past, well, before I get to that, for one, for example, it would have highlighted the issue with this test. And if we didn't have this GitHub Actions workflow configuration, we wouldn't catch this test error until the next Ubuntu version, and assuming that is used by Django CI. So yeah, and at that point, I think it would be too late, um, especially because also in the past I remember there was a bug with the latest SQLite version. Let me just find it. Um, this Yeah, so at some point in the past, there was this ticket where if you use a newer version of SQLite, it could break your database migrations. And I remember I encountered this issue when I was still at university because I was using Arch Linux on my laptop, and yeah, I updated to the latest SQLite, and I think also the latest Python as well. And yeah, then for some reason my Django projects were broken, and I'm pretty sure that at the time, even Django CI didn't test against the um, this version of SQLite basically, and so yeah, um, it was not caught in Django CI until someone reported the issue. So that's why I think it would still be useful to have this um, SQLite test for the latest version of SQLite. But yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear some thoughts from the others in the community. But yeah, anyway, so that was last week, and I guess the next thing is, where was I? Okay, yeah. So 2 weeks ago, we reviewed this PR to add a JSON array function, which is for this ticket. I guess in short, this allows you to build JSON arrays directly on the database level using this function, JSON array, so that yeah you can um, refer to values in your current query and build a JSON array directly on the database level. It's very similar to the JSON object function that was added a few years ago. So, and yeah, the ticket was already accepted. So, yeah, and this PR adds that function. And we reviewed this PR about 2 weeks ago. Yep. And yeah, I made a few suggestions. And one suggestion in particular was that the fact that this function is added to django.db models functions comparison, because one second, I guess just because the JSON object function was added to this module. And yeah, and then I made the argument that um, it seems that the use case of JSON array and also JSON object is it's more likely to be used for building JSON objects and arrays on the database level to be returned to your Python code as part of a query, and not necessarily for doing comparisons between JSON objects on the database. Because yeah, I don't think JSON object comparison is that useful on the database level, because you would have to compare, like it would have to be like deep equality instead of just reference checking, right? So yeah, it's I don't think it's I don't think it's the common use case for these functions. And also we have this PR that I've been working on with Shafia as part of Google Summer of Code, that adds the JSON set and JSON remove functions, which let you modify JSON objects, or in the case of Django, JSON fields directly on the database level without having to load the object into memory. And yeah, I can imagine that if we have these functions, we would likely want it to be in a different module instead of like DB models functions comparison. It's probably going to be Django DB models functions.json, um, just like JSON field itself that lives in Django DB models fields JSON. But um, one second, let me. As we can see here, the function itself is exposed from the Django DB models functions. So I think it should be safe if we move the JSON object function from the um, comparison module to a new module, like for example JSON. as long as we still export it from this DB models functions, because yeah, because in the documentation we only show the fact that the function is imported from django.db models functions and not functions.comparison. So yeah, I think it should be okay. Um, yeah, and also in the original ticket, John, um, who wrote the ticket, originally suggested a few other functions and not just JSON set. Oh, sorry, and not just JSON array. Um, 1 second. Yeah, so I guess in general, it's likely that we add more JSON related functions in the future, not just JSON array. Case in point is the JSON set and JSON remove functions. So yeah, I think it makes sense to put it in a separate module. Although there's this counterpoint where we have, um, well, not yet. So we also want to add this JSON array aggregate function that is going to be added in Django DB models aggregates, so not in functions. But I think in that case, um, that function is more specific to aggregations, and in this model, in this module, we also have functions like average, sum, and count, which are technically database functions, but they don't live in Django DB models functions. So I think we can leave that one in aggregation. So yeah, Sarah commented that she liked this direction, and she asked for inputs from Simon Charette and Mariusz, and they both agreed. So yeah, I think we can go ahead with this, and I don't think we need to create a ticket for this. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think we need to, but yeah. So I think what I'll do is let's just create a PR, and if we need to write a ticket for it, we'll do that later. So, all right, let's get going, I suppose. Oh, before before I start, I just want to make sure that no one has actually done that. I think if someone did, they would have left a comment here. Let me see. Okay, no. Yeah, I think we're good. So, let's see. Yeah, it's still there. Okay. All right, so let's open up the code base. And yeah, it's in django.db models functions comparison. We have our function right here. So I think we just need to create a new module, json.py, and then let's cut that, put it here, and add the imports. Okay. And then we update the exports, even though Python doesn't really have exports. Yeah, so from JSON import JSON object. So JSON. Oops. Okay, I think that should be it. I think yeah, let's just make sure that it's not imported anywhere else. Okay, I think we're good. So let's run the tests. So it's in db functions. Well, we'll also need to move the tests, but before we do that, let's just make sure it doesn't break. Test JSON object. Oh, sorry. Okay, nice. Okay, great. I guess let's see if we have anything that imports function. Okay. It's imported from the functions module, so I think we're good. Yeah, I think we're good. We just need to move this test to JSON, move it here. Okay. Yep. So I think if we just, so perhaps we should run the whole DB functions tests. Ooh, what's that? Mm, I think that's unrelated. It's about the collation issue with one of the functions, the collate function. It's probably just my MySQL um, setup that's not. Yeah, I probably haven't set the collation settings, but let's. Okay, same. Nice. Okay. All right. So let's. Hmm. Yeah, we don't have a ticket, so I can name the branch anything. Let's just make sure. Okay. Um, all right. So it should be something like we're going to reference the ticket because that's the reason why we are moving the function. So I guess refs that move JSON object to django.db models functions JSON. And I guess I'm not sure whether we should update the documentation as well. I guess before we get there, yeah, I'm not sure whether we should. Yeah, I was thinking of like also importing the function in here. Um, just in case someone um, imported from here, um, like we have like a deprecation warning here saying that hey, you should not import it from um, comparison and you should import it from functions instead. But I think that's not worth it because one, we've always documented the function as available from functions instead of functions.comparison. And the other reason is that in the JSON module itself, we import the cast function because we need to use it. And yeah, if we wanted to import the JSON object function, we cannot do it right away because that would lead to circular imports because this module imports that module and that module imports this module. So we would need to move this import to uh, here, for example. But yeah, I don't think that's worth it. I don't think it's breaking change because the publicly documented behavior is for you to import the function from DB models functions. So yeah, I don't think we should bother adding the deprecation warning for that. Um, what else? Oh yeah, the documentation. So okay. So it's currently listed under comparison and conversion functions, but since we are moving this function into, I think these headings correspond to the modules that they live in. So yeah, for example, you have comparison and then math, text, and window. And if we look at the functions module, we have comparison, datetime, math, yeah, text, and window. So if we have JSON here, I think we should have its own section in the documentation. So that's going to be after datetime, right? Yep. So, but before math. So it's like JSON functions. Okay, I think we also want the heading target. JSON functions. Okay, I think it looks good. So let's compile the documentation. Do I have it? Okay, let's create. I think I do have one. And just to make sure. Okay. Not sure if I need to do this, but what I need is to install the requirements for building the documentation. then okay, I think we can serve it with Python's HTTP server. Okay, let me just show you. All right, it looks different because the oops, the official Django documentation is built differently. Um, it's built as part of the website itself. So instead of building the documentation with Sphinx and like hosting the HTML as is, the Django project website, it builds the documentation. I think it in JSON format or something, but definitely not HTML, I think. Or maybe I'm mistaken, but whatever it is, the final build is not immediately used on the website, because if you look in the Docs app, yeah, it has its own way of like, see, it load the documentation from a JSON file and then renders it using and with some caching. So yeah, it's a very different setup. But Django also has the documentation available from read the docs. So if you go to django.readthedocs.io, you get the same setup from Sphinx. Where was it? Yeah. So, oops. Yeah. So this. Yeah, it's very similar. Okay. And let's look at the database functions. All right, now we have this separate section for JSON functions where the documentation for JSONObject lives. And we currently only have JSONObject, but with the JSON array PR, we're gonna have JSON array in there as well, and also the JSON set and JSON remove functions later. So yeah, I think it's fine for now to only have a single function in there. Okay. Oops. Yeah. So yeah, I think that looks good. Okay, let's push this. Oh, you know what? I forgot. We probably shouldn't. As per this comment, um, we are going to add JSON array in this BR, and also JSON set and JSON remove in there are potentially other JSON related functions to be added in the future. So um, the JSON object function is because with how the JSON object function works, it is more likely to be used for building JSON objects on the database level to be used in things like database level updates, or to be returned as part of a query set, rather than to be returned into the Python code, rather than being used for comparison. It's also the case for the JSON array function we are going to add in. We're also going to add as well. We're also going to add, sorry, that was a typo. We're also going to add JSON set and JSON remove in that PR. So for these reasons, it makes sense to move to have a dedicated JSON module, as we do for other database functions like date. Is it date or is it datetime? Datetime, math, and text. The JSON field itself also lives in django.db.models fields JSON, and not, so it's good for consistency. In the docs, we've only ever documented the function being imported from Django.db models functions and not Django.db models functions comparison. So I believe we don't need to have a deprecation path for those who mistakenly import the function from comparison. I've also updated the docs to reflect the code structure. Okay, it targets main branch, past tense, mentions the ticket number, ends with a period. Okay. That's a nice. Those are nice numbers. 98, 89. Okay, let's update the PR. I've opened for this. Thanks all. I've opened that PR for this. And also update the ticket. Not directly related, but as per the discussion in the PR, I've made a PR to move JSONObject to django.db.models.functions.json. Once that is merged, the JSON array function should live in the new django.db models functions JSON as well. All right. I think we're good. Less than an hour. Yeah, we just need to wait for the test, but I'm not expecting it to fail. So, and we've already run the tests locally as well. So I think we're good. Ah, nice. Okay, yeah, I think it's probably going to be a short stream today. I don't have anything else to do. Um, let's see. What's this? I know this person. Okay, I think it looks good, but yeah, I haven't verified the behavior. I think let's see. Yeah, fixture teardown. Hmm. I think it's it's small enough for someone else to approve the PR, so I'll just leave it be. But yeah, just for context, I know that Chiamizwo is also a Wagtail contributor. He previously, well, I think it was this year actually. Yeah, he participated in Google Summer of Code with Wagtail, where he added the new image block in Wagtail so that when you attach, well, when you include an image in your page, you also have to specify the um, alt text for the image, or you can also mark it as decorative. So yeah, that was a great project. So I'm happy to see Chim as well contribute to um, Django as well. Okay, and yeah, I've also reviewed this PR. Well, not this one. This one for this is for a bug that I reported like last year, and it was initially closed and then it was reopened just 6 days ago because it turned out to be a legit bug. So yeah, I'm not going to go into details for this one, but I did make a reproduction example in this repo that I made last year, and thankfully I still have it. I didn't delete it, so when I was asked to review this PR, I could just update the GitHub Actions configuration to target the um, the PR branch from Simon Charette, and yeah, we can see that the test now passes, whereas on the 5.1 branch it fails. Yeah, so I think we're good for today. It's only an hour stream, so I think I still have some energy if I do want to do a gaming stream later tonight, but we'll see because I haven't really set up um, my gaming PC for streaming yet. So yeah, we'll see. Um, yeah, I think in the meantime we're good. So let me just have some celebration. 1 second. Let me find it. Okay, so today we have made a PR to move the JSON object function from the comparisons module to a new JSON module for JSON related functions. So yeah, that's great. Yay! Okay, yeah, I think I'm going to stop the stream here. So yeah, thank you everyone if anyone is watching. But yeah, thank you for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's useful. And I will see you next time. Bye bye.